I think if she got involved in American politics with the title the Duchess of Sussex, she'd be eaten alive. I think she may think that she's got the wherewithal to make it. I think a lot of the Democrats would run a mile. Didn't they have a war to get rid of the British royals in America? I think really, if you want to be a serious politician, then just go by the name of Meghan Markle. But I don't think she's got the clout or the background to be a serious politician.
I don't think she would be able to take the criticism or the scrutiny. Would be one of the things I think with Meghan.
I just don't think. I mean, it's a dirty game.
Yeah.
And I think that if she thinks she's been treated badly by the British press, then I think that there's going to be an awful lot worse if you enter the world of politics in America.
Well, let's see what happens in the next couple of months as the US election, is on the horizon. There's another element, and it might be just in a media bubble, but last week we spoke about, tongue-in-cheek, said they could accept an invite from anywhere. Would they accept an invite from North Korea, for instance? But from speaking to people on the ground, there were certain restrictions on the press. So all the pictures that came out were from an agreed photographer. There was rotocopy that was sent out, that came out via the Archwell team, and it was quite mundane. There wasn't anything exciting in it. There weren't very many quotes from people who had met the couple or anything like that. And the videos that were presented from this trip were silent, and some were suggesting was that because there weren't many cheers or there were comments coming out. But I joked about North Korea last week, but the restrictions on the press, the control that Archwell had on this tour would make Kim Jong-un blush, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, this is exactly what we expected. I mean, the reality is they don't like criticism. The people around them, the trolls and all these morons, they don't like criticism. They give it out, but they can't take it. And you can't really say that you are into open free speech and things like that if you're controlling every step. It's a little bit strange, to be honest. But it reminds me, like going to having a tour where you can't have any criticism or free press reporting on it. It's a bit like what happened with the 1938, when the Duke and Duchess of Windsor went to Nazi Germany to look at the housing projects. It was all controlled by the Nazis who were pumping out their propaganda. I'm not comparing the Colombian government to the Nazis or even Meghan and Harry. What I'm saying is that you do need a free press. I know that the Royal Rota comes under attack for being supine, I think it was been described. But it's by journalists like yourself and me that will watch things and see things, and speak and interview people and report on what's actually happening. So, look, my feeling is it was just a PR puff.
It was a PR puff, and it was quite a successful PR puff because they got
nothing else was going on. I mean, they picked the time of August because they knew they wouldn't clash with anything else, really.
But it remains vague to me, the reasons for going. It totally does.
Self-promotion, simple as that.
For the couple and but we don't know really.
And distraction for Colombia about all the nonsense that's going on there. There's a lot of problems in Colombia. The government will get a lot of criticism. It gives them a chance to sort of, to have a distraction from their problems.
Finally, on the Sussexes, where next do you think they could end up?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, as you say, North Korea, Russia. I don't know. The reality is, I think that they'll have to wait and be invited because. If they want to do it on that scale, where you're involving political figures, it needs to be a personal connection. I think they need to work out what they want to do. They don't come across as particularly authentic. If you are trying to rebuild your reputation, they've just lost their CEO, and they seem to not be able to hang on to staff. I think you've got to stop build from the bottom and not have these grand moments. Just do things that are authentic and do things that are real rather than sort of staged with, loads of different outfit changes. Just do some real work in America maybe, and people won't start to believe you.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something which I think is very worthwhile. The King, has gone to Southport, and we get a lot of US viewers, so I just want to explain what happened. A couple of weeks ago, 3 children were killed at a Taylor Swift-themed party. It was a huge atrocity in the UK and made lots of coverage. Led to some street riots in the UK. Led to some disorder. So the King has gone to Southport. He has met some of the families and children who were there when this happened. He's met some of the 999 heroes, and in London he's meeting some of the families of the 3 bereaved children. This is a huge moment for the King, a very important step. This is what the King should be doing, right?
Well, the King's coming up to the second anniversary of his reign, and I think he's well established now. I think this is the sort of thing he should be doing. Yeah, he is the head of state, but he's also the head of nation. He's there to unify the nation. And after this, frankly, heinous crime, there was a lot of disorder, a lot of misinformation that led to that disorder as well, actually. And I think it's quite important that the King has a role that is to unify people and to try to bring them together. But he'll also be meeting the bereaved families, which is going to be very emotional. I think it's going to be private in London. But the point of it is that's part of his role, and I think it's absolutely right that he does it. And he's a very compassionate man. Someone I think that, you've met him, I've known him many years, and I think that he's somebody that has a great empathy with people, particularly in difficult situations like this.
Yeah, too right. I mean, he's broken off his holiday. He only started his holiday this week, officially up at Balmoral, but he's broken off his holiday.
Well, it's very important, I think, and he will see that. And, he was quite alarmed by the disorder that followed. He issued statements about that. And I think he's basically, showing that he really does care about the country and the people who live within it. And he's spent most of his life and his working life trying to work for closer relations, interfaith relations, community relations. And he would have been, horrified at seeing some of the things that were happening on the streets. And it's a tinderbox, and that's something he's fully aware.
I think it's thoroughly important that the King does this kind of stuff. If you remember Grenfell, again, for any US viewers, this was an incident where a housing block caught fire and there were so many tragic deaths. And I remember Theresa May, who was the Prime Minister at the time, went there and to visit the community, and she got booed and jeered and had to leave. The Queen went there. The late Queen went there, and that kind of changed all the atmosphere. Yeah. They have a certain power, don't they?
Yeah, they do. There's a sort of a sense of there's an awe about the royal family, actually, and a sense of deference that's still there. But it's not so much that, it's that they are not political. They're not there to take the blame for the shortcuts that were taken and the politicians have to face. But they're trying, I think, and the King in particular has always tried to build to be supporting a harmonious society, a diverse and loving society where people can live together in harmony. And he's always worked very hard for that. And, it would have been really quite disturbing all the things that were going on for him, I think.
I mentioned a minute ago that he was having a summer break up at Balmoral. It's just over 6 months ago that he announced that he was diagnosed with cancer. He's back on his feet now. We're going to Australia. Me and you will be in Australia in October. Looking forward to it. He's back on his feet now. I've written a story saying that, almost like praising the royal household and praising the King about how they've managed to get to this stage where it was all doom and gloom back in February and March, and now we're kind of looking forward and a little bit of optimism. How do you think the King's got on over the last 6 months with this huge challenge of cancer? Well,
the King is a bit of a workaholic, and I think that he's probably doing too much. I think that the Queen, Camilla, is keen for him to do less. I think he should listen to her. But he is somebody that doesn't stop. On the occasions like this, with the Southport, he's made sure that he's going to do what his duty. And I think there's part of it is that he realises that, becoming the oldest king to ascend to the throne, his time will be limited, and he wants to make his mark not only as the Prince of Wales previously, but as king. And, I think now we're through the transition, and that's what he wants to do. I personally would like to see him doing a little bit less, because, with anything to do with cancer, it can change quite quickly. And stress is a difficult thing. But we know that the King is somebody that will always put duty first.